when I set this business up 8 years ago, I thought it would have a shelf life and that it would be redundant by now. That is not the case. I think we'll always need people who are experienced in data quality. I think that that will become even rarer than it is now. So it's a really valuable skill to have. But also, I'm building a tool and a product. So I've got a tool called samification. So we are building and using private GPT models to learn from what we've cleaned to then be able to clean other things, knowing that the source of the data is super, super clean because it's been done by us. So, whereas even a year ago, I would have said, no AI, I'm like, okay, this is coming. We need to make it better. And we can do that with our knowledge and experience and build something on that.
Thank you, Susan, for joining. We're just super excited to have you. I've just been such a joy talking to you. You're so much fun. And
Thanks so much. I've really enjoyed our chats.
yeah,
Now we get to bring it to the podcast.
Yeah, now we get to bring it to the podcast. And I mean, there's just so many depths of conversations we've had in various different venues. But I think one of the ones that for the viewers that would be the most intriguing is, so you've already written Between the Spreadsheets, a data quality book. And now your second edition is coming out in September.
Yes, I'm really excited. We've got some new chapters, something on Gen AI, which didn't exist when I wrote the first book. And some case studies of clients that we've helped. So yeah, I'm really excited.
Do you mind maybe giving us like a teaser of like your favorite piece of the second edition?
I think I have used examples of ChatGPT where it works and then others where it doesn't. And actually, I even have a screenshot of where I managed to break it. So yeah.
Okay. So as it corresponds
Because
to this.
I think it's really important. It's not a magic button that fixes everything. I think we have to use it cautiously and understand where it works and where it doesn't work so well. So this is going to be a really good chapter to highlight that.
Okay. So, um, so you're identifying specifically, like from a data quality perspective, how to improve data quality using some form of a GPT and ingesting it in, and then like where you're going to run into problems,
Yeah,
things of that nature.
so this might surprise you, but actually I don't think GPT is great at the data quality part yet. I've got a couple of examples where it's hallucinated addresses when I've had the right
Oh,
address, and for comparison, it has not normalized the supplier names properly. And of course, I've done this at a level like doing the prompts that your average person working in a normal non-data job would put a prompt in. So that's the kind of results you're getting back. Obviously, if you kind of tweak the prompts and go into a lot of detail, but that's not most people who are like just trying to get through day to day.
right.
But what was absolutely phenomenal and blew my mind away was um, when I was home at Christmas, we went to the cemetery, and as we walked in, I was like, "That tree looks really weird." And then so we walked up, and then when we came back down the other side, I was close to it, and I realized that it was a phone mast disguised as a tree. It had like the boxes at the top, and put that image into GPT, convinced that it would have no idea that it wasn't a tree, and it knew straight away exactly what it was. It unbelievable. But yeah, it couldn't classify chicken from the UNSPSC. So, there's so many like
And
different
it's moving at a
aspects of it.
different, such an accelerated pace. So this was like probably a year or two ago. I was trying to use, I think it was like Llama or one of those. Um, I can't remember what version it was. And looking at cleansing phone numbers, right? And so
Yeah.
especially doing that internationally, right? So
Mhm.
having um, a country and then a corresponding phone number, and then everybody's misuse of parentheses and dashes and yada yada yada,
We've
and
got a
just saying,
chapter
hey,
on that in the book, so yeah.
okay, and
There's a whole section on that, and that's just how to do it in Excel. So if you can enhance that, amazing.
No, I was just curious if what was your exposure on the GPT with phone numbers, because that was one of the things where I was like, I couldn't even get a consistent format. Um,
Yeah, I was so let down by the addresses that I didn't even try the phone numbers.
okay,
But the tool we use a tool called Omniscope. It's an ETL tool,
okay,
similar to Alteryx, and I have like developed a methodology of cleaning data in this. So there's like modeling parts, and you can use some script, but actually a lot of it is visualization and manipulation in some editable tables. And
yep,
honestly, like as much as you can spend a whole load of time building formulas and codes and rules, sometimes it's quicker just to like press a couple of buttons, do a search and replace, remove things, tidy it up, and away you go. We
right,
don't always have to have everything like super tech.
yeah, yeah. I know that some of the places, the GPT, and even just historically, I ran into is where they have like multiple phone numbers separated by like a colon or something or a comma, and you're just like, oh gosh,
I'm writing another book right now, which is a sales and marketing data cleaning book, and I'm
okay,
using some examples like that. You have the phone number, and then it maybe says the country name or extension 25 something or ask for Bob. None of that is useful,
ask for
and that's
Bob.
where you really need to kind of define your rules of what you want in that column. So if it's a phone number column, do not accept anything other than numbers in there. No commas, no punctuation. I always recommend removing all punctuation and spaces. Just have the phone number,
Yeah, see,
because when you're looking at it as a long list, if it goes in a bit, you can tell where numbers might not be correct because they might be missing a digit or something like that. When
yep,
you have added bits and bobs in, you can't tell so easily if something's not right.
yeah, and I think one of the biggest problems with data quality in general, but specifically with like phone numbers and addresses, is like, don't you? This is gonna sound horrible. Sometimes when you're doing the data quality, especially with addresses, it's like you just kind of want to bop the person in the face. Who came up with the idea of not having street number as a separate field, right? And then like having suite as a separate field, and then it's
And
like
is it sweet or is it abbreviated?
yeah, or
It gets
apartment
really
number, right?
messy.
Whatever. And it's just like, why are these just not separate fields? And
Yeah.
it's just street name. And like, if you just broke them out separately, all of a sudden, from a data quality perspective, address is like 10x cleaner, right?
I
And
will tell you another top tip from the book. Was sending some Little Susans. If you are not familiar with Little Susan, that's Little Susan. So I had some requests to send some to the US, and I was actually going to be in the US, so I thought I'll package them up in the UK, put them in my suitcase, and post them at USPS. Took them there, and I knew they had given me their addresses, so I had copied it perfectly. And then I get to the counter, and the man says, "Oh, there's digits missing from these zip codes." So it turns out like the New Jersey, New York area has a leading zero. And guess what? Excel decided just to
to
didn't we didn't
chop them,
need that. Well,
yeah.
let's just take it away. Yeah.
Yeah, because it was left in a text format, right? Or no, it was left in a
You know what
numeric
it is?
form. It
I'd
was a number.
copied it from one tab to another to make the labels, and obviously hadn't pasted the same format as it was, and so that's what caused the problem.
Yep.
But so yeah, lesson learned there.
Yeah. So, would you mind just telling the audience some of like the crazy data quality? Because you run your own consultancy for helping data
Yeah.
quality, and I can't imagine that you haven't run into some like crazy stories on the value that's been generated for the organization, or just some data quality issues that just would make people cringe.
Oh,
So,
absolutely. Um, so when I first started this business, I work a lot with procurement teams, and they outsourced all their spend analytics, so their dashboards, the
right,
analytics, the classification of the data. For the last, say, maybe 4 or 5 years, they've brought the dashboards and that part in house, but they haven't really mastered the classification cleaning bit. And so we focus specifically on that. So we get the messiest of the messiest, the stuff that you can't put into a tool and it'll at least work and give you something. This is the it's so bad
Right.
we can't do anything with it. So I have seen well-known brand and company names misspelled. I've seen terrible, terrible formatting of addresses. You know, some punctuation on some rows of the address and not on the other. I've seen uh, the same address being called a road and a street. You know, it's like you have no idea. Sometimes the address is correct and the postcode or zip code is wrong, or sometimes it's vice versa, or sometimes the whole thing is wrong. Um, Lots of different ways of spelling the same thing. So we there was a lot of schools, for example. So there's Church of England schools. So that could be Church of England. It could be C of E or COE. Um, it could be Roman Catholic, so then it's either Roman Catholic, Catholic, or RC. So there's no like, so you end up with multiple versions of the same thing, and then
Right.
within that, it could be the same school, but there's different addresses, and so and then I tried to use ChatGPT to verify that and couldn't get the right information. So it was a really manual, messy process and nearly drove me to the edge of insanity. After doing this for nearly 8 years, I thought I'd seen everything. And then this file came in last summer, and that was my whole summer just ruined.
Oh my gosh. So you went in and just like manually. So I'm assuming you did what you could from an automation perspective. Uh,
There was very little because also the name of the company, institution, person wasn't also might not be right. It might be like the school might have changed its name, the business might have changed its name,
wow.
everything, like there was no like data points that you could use as an anchor to say, right, well, we can search on this and it will be this. Like it was rough.
So were you having to use like affiliated contacts um, with that information in order to like back into what that company name should have
So
been?
I found some shortcuts. So I did run the postcodes through ChatGPT with the name of the whatever that it was, and if it matched, then I excluded that from the stuff that needed to be manually checked. So it did remove a chunk
Right.
because if it's in their database and ChatGPT's pulled that information, then logically it must be right. At some point there's been that thing has been at that address.
Right.
So that was the best, and obviously I normalized the names as much as I could before starting to search for the addresses and all that kind of stuff. Even things like on the UK government website you can download lists of schools in the UK for England, Scotland, and Wales. Even with that, some of the data from the government website was wrong. They had school information that was wrong, so it didn't match our data set. So some of it did and some of it
Right.
didn't. And some
Oh
of
my
the
gosh.
names were slightly different, so you couldn't match. It was just unpicking bit after bit after bit, and you really did have to do like maybe do all the universities at one go, then all the schools, then all the businesses, and then, maybe focus on an area because sometimes this zip code postcode was assigned to two different areas, but it can only be one in one area. So you then have to like it just went on and on and on.
So
But they've come back and I've actually got more data for that to clean this week and next week and the week after. So I'm a glutton
oh,
for
they're loading you
punishment.
up for
I'm
your
going to
next
do
summer.
more.
Yeah, they're like, hey, you liked last summer. Let's get you. Let's
You're
run
like,
you
yeah,
next
you
summer.
did such a great job. We want you to do more. And I'm like, okay. Actually, it's a smaller amount this time, and there is something really satisfying about it. I think if you are a data cleaner, it's definitely a kind of OCD kind of
Oh yeah. So
making it neat and tidy and orderly.
like total personal confession. There's this YouTube channel I like thoroughly enjoy, and if I like want to get in the zone of the work I'm doing, um, it's this guy who has some measure of like autism, but he goes in and cleans out hoarders' houses. And
Oh, wow.
so like he just sets up a camera and you just see him and it's like on double speed and it'll take him like 2 or 3 days and it's like a 2 hour video. And like he'll just like pause and talk about like some of the disorders that are associated with hoarding and the things he runs into. And it's just like watching it, I'm just like, I just want to clean everything, and like it gets me in like game mode. And so I definitely agree. There's like a quirky personality for an individual who could like just drill in and just be like in the zone. I'm gonna clean
Yeah,
this up.
yeah. I'm
Uh,
the data equivalent of that. Don't ask me. I cannot stand cleaning my hat. In fact, I have cleaners because I am a terrible at cleaning my own place. I live alone, but I still need cleaners because I'm so bad. I am a definitely dust around the edges, not in the corners kind of girl. So yeah, yeah, that real world terrible, data world. I am there. I am fixing the data hoarders mess.
yeah. So do you? So I know I've talked to some people who have like so like I had Brent Dykes on the podcast a while back ago. I'm sure you're
I
familiar
know
with him.
Brent. Yeah,
Yeah. And one of the questions I had was like, dude, you got to tell me some of like all the stories of the success stories of people who've come back to you, read your book, implemented it. And he goes, yeah, well, the problem is most times there's like whole NDAs or they're not going to provide feedback because they can't tell stories and they read my book. It's not like we have an NDA in place where they can come back and tell me all these really cool things. And then if they did, I'm not exactly able to share them. And um, so I'm assuming
I'm
like you're kind of in that same
exactly there too.
situation
But
where
also,
do you ever hear like stories of like, hey, when you cleaned up this data, here was the lift that we had, or it changed XYZ for the yeah. So it's just deadpan. It's just you fulfill the work and you're like, no, you don't get to see the end state of it, right?
no, and I think because I work with a lot of procurement people, they're not necessarily data minded in terms
Right.
of tracking that kind of thing. But I did find out like 2 years after a project that the work I did um, built the foundations for them to then build an AI tool to do it for themselves. But they recognized that you needed that manual piece at the start to be able to do that. There was another client
Oh,
who
so did they?
they had no
So
sorry.
did they take the input that they gave you and then what you produced back as kind of like a model to train, saying like this became this?
Yeah.
Ah, okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
So now they do it all in house. It's all automated and, working pretty well. And one of my first ever
Did you
clients,
ask them to say like, hey, like, uh, I'll return your fee if you give me like a license that I can't sell but I can use internally?
I need to get a testimonial. I haven't actually done that yet. I'm terrible at that kind of stuff. But a
Right,
lot of
because
time, I think it's a one-off project. They do it and then they
yeah,
maybe don't kind of maintain it, so they don't want to admit that they haven't looked after it and need more
okay,
help.
got it.
But the other thing is, the work I've done has created roles. One of my earliest clients didn't have any procurement analysts or a team doing anything like that. And based off the work I did a couple of different projects for them. They now have a team based, doing this kind of work. So
Got it. So they saw the value that you did, and were you able to use it to justify bringing on an entire team for doing that data quality work?
they used it to justify getting headcount for their own department. Yeah, so they
Hmm.
got employees to be able to do it.
Very cool.
Yeah, but I think I actually kind of see it as a good sign if I don't hear from them, because I think, well, then they're happy and everything's doing what it needs to do.
Right. So, so you kind of mentioned some of the like the worst case data stories. Did you have any data stories where you can like give an attestation to like some of the value that you were able to drive, or is just no feedback?
No, I have had some testimonials. There was one client we built a new taxonomy for them, classified all their spend data. We helped map their contract data to their suppliers, which meant they suddenly had visibility on who was buying on contract or off contract, when contracts were expiring for a specific supplier. It opened up the opportunity for them to identify risk with some of those suppliers as well that they'd never had before. We deduplicated and amalgamated and consolidated all their supplier information so they had it in one row rather than on separate accounts.
And that
Um,
deduplication comes post facto a data quality
yeah,
process,
you
right?
need to clean it
So you
before you
clean
can
it,
reuse
and
it.
then because of the cleaning, now you're able to identify, hey, you have the same record 5 times.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Sometimes the company name is slightly different. Sometimes it's been changed or bought out or merged, and they've got a really. I mean, we've seen International Business Machines as a supplier name. That's IBM. It's not been International Business Machines for decades.
yeah,
So, it's there's stuff like that still exists.
oh yeah,
And I can tell you now, like a new up and coming data analyst or scientist wouldn't even probably know that IBM was International Business Machines.
yeah, yeah. And I think, yeah. And what's interesting is, so where do you? I mean, I think now the larger community that was all abuzz about AI, AI, AI is now realizing AI is worthless with trash data, and
Yeah. It's the same story we've been talking about for decades. Something that I talk about every single day. And the people who are like really on the ground in the weeds doing it know how important clean data is. But
right,
trying to get buy in from the wider organization can be such a struggle. It can be really tough. And there's not like one quick win answer for it. Try and align it to your business goals, objectives, KPIs, tell them how you're going to help them achieve those faster, quicker, how you might improve profit or the bottom line. Show examples of where it's really wrong and the damage that it could be doing in the business as well. It can
right.
impact forecasting, planning, um, logistics, warehousing, inventory. It could be sales and marketing where you're paying for a massive CRM system with all these contacts and half of them are actually duplicates. You're wasting your money. And you got two different people contacting the same client or prospect because they have no idea that there's two versions of that account on the CRM. I mean, there's so many different ways.
Yeah, that would be something that I think one of the big things is, as people start putting in these like AI projects, they're budgeting out, okay, we need XYZ data scientists, we need somebody to do um, some quality testing and doing some of the actual, like, the hard work of, okay, is it producing what we want? Are we getting hallucinations? Those types of things. But I think on the front end, like, part of that budget needs to be the data quality piece and saying, hey, look, we need to make sure that 20% of our budget or more, right, for
Doesn't
AI
even need to be as
initiative,
much as that, honestly. But if you do that front end bit, the QA bit at this side will be less because you've done the heavy lifting here. Like,
right?
and if you do it here, it's much easier to fix things than you're halfway down the process and have to fix them here. It's going to take this much longer, not this much. So yeah, and the cost will be higher as well.
Yeah, I mean, but just think about like the volume of time. Like, so most data scientists, when you talk to them, it's like, hey, look, uh, like 30-40% of their time, sometimes up to 60% of their time, is exclusively dedicated to just data engineering, and then like another 20% of their time is doing the data quality piece or more, right? Like going in and being like, okay, like it's not working because of this issue, and um, nothing undoes something as much as like you go down the road and then you get there and you're producing the product and it's like stutter step, stutter step, stutter
So
step,
frustrating. Mm.
and not only does it just kill morale, but it just um, it's like one of those things where, like, the two people you want to alleviate the most from a time perspective is your salespeople and your data scientists, because they're the most expensive,
Yeah.
and they have the greatest opportunity to return some of the greatest value. And then it's like, oh, we're gonna just forego doing the data quality on the front end to free that person up. And it's like the data quality impacts who the most? The salespeople and your most expensive resources, and limits
Yeah.
their ability from an opportunity cost, right?
But the other thing is that cleaning data is not taught properly. And there's kind of just an expectation that anyone can do it. And of course, anyone can clean data. But if you're trained in it, or if you do it on a regular basis, like me and my team, then obviously it's going to take a hell of a lot less time and it's going to be more accurate first time round. And I really think that at universities and things, we need more practical examples. I've met so many amazing analyst scientists who will put in fantastic code. Even my own data analyst, he will run models and do things. And then I get the data and I'm like, this is missing, because they've not been taught to look
Right.
for this or sense check that, or if they don't know what type of data it is, get an expert in this space to have a look at it and verify it first.
Yeah, and I think that that's one of those things where, especially for in the data community, a lot of people are DIYers, so they can relate to this. Where it's like, oh, I have this plumbing issue, and it's like it's going to cost this, or I hire a plumber, and they're like, okay, I'll just do it, and they end up making, at
More
least in the
mess.
U.S., like right,
Yeah.
their trips to Home Depot like are like three, four, five times, and they get three-quarters of the way through, and they realize like, oh, I don't know about this part, and then they hire a guy, and after they've spent a whole day, and the guy comes in and finishes it in 5 minutes, and the quality is
Yeah.
like 10 times better.
Yeah.
And that's that same thing of like, hey, like there is, um, when you know what you're doing, when you know what to look for, it's just like bang, bang, bang. The work just gets leveled out. And
Yeah.
uh,
And
so
I
do
would say one of my biggest challenges is I get a lot of work in the procurement space and I get a lot of support in the data space. But a lot of times the data people think they can do it themselves and that they already know what I know, and so that's fine. And they will know a lot of what I know, but they don't know all of what I
right,
know, because they are doing lots of different things in a day. I'm doing the same thing for 13 years. I know the shortcuts, I know the
right,
pitfalls, I know what to beware of. So, yeah, of course you can do it, but I can give you tips to make
okay.
yourself even
So
more
are you
efficient.
comfortable? Let's have you give your best three tips. Choose a random, because a data quality is, I'm obviously preaching to the choir, is completely variant depending upon what type of data we're talking about.
Hmm.
So,
Let's
well,
take some CRM address data because that's a
okay,
pretty common that you're going to see that in most businesses.
okay,
The first thing that I would say is whatever you're working in, never overwrite the original columns. So we'll always put the clean data in a column called new. And there's a couple of reasons for that. The first is, especially if you're working in Excel, cut and paste errors happen, things slip. And how are you going to know if they've slipped if you don't have the original data to kind of
right,
benchmark yourself against? And then the second thing is, most people who are not in data don't know what a clean or a messy spreadsheet looks like. It all looks the same to them. It's no different. It's like just looking at fuzz on the TV. So by having the clean data next to the dirty data, you are proving your value and also the value of having it clean and showing the difference that it makes.
hmm.
So that is one of my top tips. The other
And
is,
do you also do that from like a what if we got it wrong perspective? Like you do some form of a cleansing, and then it's like, um, wait, we want to go double check the original because something might be off, right? Like, um, from your best cleansing efforts, you determined that it was, uh, XYZ zip code or whatever, and turns out that like the zip code expanded or moved or something, and now it's not. Or
yeah, we can do that. And the way that I would do that is put a row ID in your original data set and then the one that you're working on, so that you can kind of,
Right.
because if you want to do like a lookup to match it back, sometimes like if you you accidentally do a search and replace on the whole spreadsheet and mess all of it up, you're going to have nothing that you can match it back on. But if you've got like a row ID, chances are that's not going to get corrupted as much, so you can then like verify the original stuff with your new stuff by doing that.
Right.
And
Okay.
then tip number two,
Tip
I
number two.
guess.
Yeah.
So I talk about the data coat quite a bit. That is making sure your data has its coat on. So first of all, it has to be consistent. So before you even start a project, agree those standard terms, processes, abbreviations. Like when you are putting in an address, are you going to abbreviate the street name or not? Do you want commas at the end of each line of the address or not? And make sure that it's standard
Mm.
across everybody who's inputting that information. You could even potentially put conditions and rules in your system if possible. Like in a US zip code, you should not have any text, so there should be no letters there. Decide whether you want to do uppercase or lowercase sentence case, all those things, like standardize it, don't have mixed casing. Um, it could be again number formatting, decide what do you want to add the country code in or not, depending on what kind of business and how many countries you operate in, that will depend on that. Um, Even things like what kind of information do you need, first name, last name, do you need job title, industry,
Right.
decide all that stuff up front, and then it makes it so much easier than if you get halfway through and realize, oh, we should have been collecting this as well, and you don't have it. And
Right.
sometimes it might be that you want to start collecting something that you don't have yet, but you're thinking about not just what you need for today, but what you need for the future as well.
Yeah.
So that would be another one of my tips. And then, yeah,
So, and
just
I'm also assuming you have, you've created some form of like spreadsheet, Excel, whatever, or I mean, or database of a conversion, right? So, like circle to circle, or road to road, street to street. Um, uh,
if only it was as easy as that. Because in a data set like that, you can't just do a search and replace or add a condition to remove the RD, because sometimes it's a legitimate part of a word, or
right.
it's, you have to be so
Or
careful.
ST is Saint, right? Depending upon where you
Yeah,
go.
we've had
And so,
that
like,
too. Yeah.
how many times you have a
Um
street that's like St. John Street or something like that? And you're like,
yeah, and
oh, great.
yeah, I've
So you got ST on the front end and ST on the back end. You're just like, oh, I just give up.
yeah.
Like,
So it's not all, but again, AI is learning and developing, and it will start to pick up on stuff like that. And if you have a really good base training data set, then that will help a lot.
right,
Yeah. And then I think my third and final tip is always keep a backup of your original data somewhere else for safety, just in case. Because I grew up in the 90s when you lost literally days of work potentially if there was a corrupted floppy disk. So that stays with you. So no matter how many autosaves there are now, I always have a spare backup.
yeah, yeah, I think that that's the one that I can definitely resonate with. There's been times where
Yeah.
I've spent days on whether it be cleaning things or whatever, and then you make that like that that goof, right? And something gets offset or whatever, and then you're just like, oh no, like how do I?
Literally your heart falls through your chest.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I always say you have your original, uh, which is entirely separate from your duplication, and then I love the making sure you have the original and the new cleansed columns bifurcated, separated, and then just like
Yeah.
so you can. And I love that
Yeah.
you're pointing out the fact that you can show the value and turn around and say, "Hey, here's before, here's what it is now," and so I love that so much.
Ta-da.
Yeah. So
Yeah, and on one other side note is we work a lot with US clients, but we're based here in the UK, and the backup copy of the file somewhere else is so important because we've had to set up a machine in the US time zone because if I try to open it on my machine, it tries to convert the dates to UK format
right,
and it messes everything up. So that's
yeah,
Excel, of course, but
but
yeah. So
that's not just Excel. That is um, anybody that's worked with dates and times knows the absolute pain of that. I feel like maybe the US wouldn't follow it, but maybe the rest of the world can come up with like a standard that just was like, this is the date standard. Everybody just comply.
yeah.
I mean, the metric standard, just tack it on there and just say, but the US, obviously, they're going to just do things differently. But I just wish from a date perspective, it's like just make it the same format every time. I mean, I'm sure you've run into it, and I know the viewers probably have as well, where it's like day first or month first. And um,
Do you spell the month out or do you use numbers? There's so many
oh,
year
yeah,
first.
just it's and it's just like every software engineer, this goes back to kind of my like frustration with like street setup. It's just like set it up like it's clearly it's easy, but every software developer seems to like think that they have a new edge and have come from whatever background. It's like, and so you always have such a variance depending upon the software system of how dates are managed and timestamps and all that.
Even the
uh,
separator can be a dash, a slash, or a dot, or nothing at all.
right.
There's so many different ways to format the ones like today's date. It's crazy.
Yep. Yeah. And then if you're dealing with Excel, right, like the conversion into an actual number, and yeah, there's just a um, fun with dates, right?
Oh yeah, keeps it interesting.
Yeah. Uh, so if we were to just kind of like bring this full circle, uh, where do you see the future for yourself, and then also the data like data cleansing, data quality space um, in the next several years, especially with AI?
When I set this business up 8 years ago, I thought it would have a shelf life and that it would be redundant by now. That is not the case. I think we'll always need people who are experienced in data quality. I think that will become even rarer than it is now. So it's a really valuable skill to have. But also, I'm building a tool and a product. So I've got a tool called samification. So we are building and using private GPT models to learn from what we've cleaned to then be able to clean other things, knowing that the source of the data is super, super clean because it's been done by us. So, whereas even a year ago, I would have said, no, 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 no AI. I'm like, okay, this is coming.
Right.
We
So
need to make it better. And we can do that with our knowledge and experience and build something on that.
so is that something you leverage specifically internally, or is this something that some of the viewers who might be interested in kind of taking a crack at what you're doing?
Well,
Uh,
yeah, so it started internally and then we launched the website samification.com, so like gamification. You can test 250 suppliers' company names for free. So go and see what it can do.
awesome.
Yeah.
And that's semification, correct?
Yeah.
So
So
viewers,
making
go ahead
things
and
the
take a look
same.
at it right here, and we'll go ahead and make sure that there's a link down below in the description. If you want to go ahead and give it a try for 250 cleansed records, very cool. And so then, yeah, I think you're right. I think data quality is going to be one of those things that's a skill like learning COBOL, right? Like we still have COBOL developers making insane amounts of money on something everybody thought was just going to go away 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And just the other day I'm at a conference dinner or whatever it was, and we were talking about like the prolific nature of COBOL developers in specific industries where the mainframes and all those things are going on. And I think you're right. I think as good as AI is going to get, there will always need to be that human touch element, those human eyes, that
Yeah.
interface with bad quality data, right?
And there's always going to be Excel. So let's give people the tools to do it. They're going to use it whether you want them to or not. Let's give them the tools to do it properly.
Yeah, I think the only place where I see data quality like having, I think, believe it or not, the place I see data quality being impacted in a beneficial way, right? Like it's going to be an easier lift is I think people's reliance on AI will help them to put things in more standard formats, right?
It's definitely going to reduce the amount of manual work needed, which is no bad thing at all. But we just have to accept that there's always going to be an element of manual
Yeah,
cleaning
yeah,
and
I agree with
tweaking.
that. I'm talking about from an input side, right?
All right, yeah, yes,
So like
yes,
think about like how people are able currently to be able to identify a ChatGPT LinkedIn post. And it's like, oh, it's got these markers because it's
yeah.
formatted this way. It's got like what's it, the
All
double
these
hyphen,
emojis, yeah.
yeah, um, and uh, and so like people can pick it out immediately and go. But now apply that to people using ChatGPT or something else, right? Or whatever large language model for inputting data into their system, right? And now you'll have a more, like you said on the front end, like uh, tip tip two, right? Create your structure, make sure that it's uniform or whatever. And that's what I mean by, hey, I think we'll start seeing a lot more uniformity in what goes into
That would
systems.
be lovely. That would be so
Um,
nice.
well, our hope, right?
Yeah, one day.
And not trying to like sunset the data careers of data quality and data cleansing and data
Everything's
governance.
always evolving and changing, but there's still people out there who restore old furniture by hand. And the industrial revolution might have changed a lot of things, but there's still that craft still exists, so
Yeah,
it's still be there.
yeah. I mean, watching a documentary on a guy in Japan making brushes for calligraphy, right?
Ah,
And he's like one of the only guys that does it and makes just beyond insane money, right?
yeah,
And it's like as long as you continue to be good at certain crafts, I think. Anyways, I feel like we maybe belabored that point, but um, so where are you next steps for you personally? I mean, I know we just talked about the fact that you have this phenomenal tool that people can now use. What
yes.
else is kind of in the pipeline for you into the future?
Yeah, second edition of Between the Spreadsheets, the sales and marketing book next year. You can also see me at various events in the coming months this year. I'll be popping up all over the place as I like to do. But I've got to
Nice.
get this book written first. Yeah.
And it's being released in September, and you're still doing final edits, or
No, no, no. So Between the Spreadsheets is done. That's in copy edits. That's already good to go. But the sales and marketing book, that won't be out
ah,
till next year. So
got it. And that's going to be sales and marketing from a data quality perspective. To
yeah, it's going to be called something along the lines of optimizing sales and marketing data.
but you have your own unique Susan twist, which I love your
Oh yeah,
puns, and so I'm looking forward with great anticipation to what clever spin you put on that title. So,
cool. Thank you.
all right, Susan, thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me.